This is the Rules and Legislative Oversight Committee, and we're getting started to hear Bill EA 21-0031. This is for the Director of the Department of Public Works. The nominee is Jason W. Mitchell. And so, Mr. Mitchell, I want to welcome you to the City of Baltimore and thank you for your willingness to serve the citizens of Baltimore. And this is an opportunity for you to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit what you have in store for us, any plans that you have, and then the committee and members of the council will ask questions, and then from there we will take a vote. So without further ado, you can take it away, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair Schleifer, and members of this committee. First, I would like to thank Mayor Brandon Scott for the nomination to be Baltimore City's Director of Public Works, and City Administrator Shorter for his team for their unwavering support. In addition, I would like to thank Baltimore City Council members, Chair Schleifer, and members of this body. I had a chance to speak with many of you, and I want to thank you for your kind words and your encouragement and welcome me to the city. But also your keen focus on improving infrastructure, the cleanliness of the city, customer service, staff development within the Public Works Department. I want to thank the hundreds of the community members that I have had a chance to meet both in person and virtually. Your unwavering commitment to the city, high expectations of DPW, and detailed list of concerns will be integrated in the future vision of the Department of Public Works as we set our priorities going forward. But last, I want to thank all of the Baltimore City DPW family that is looking on Charm TV at this hearing. I appreciate all the work that you do as well, and thank you. So I'm going to kind of just give an overview for this committee and the public around my resume, some of the major projects, some of the things I'm looking forward to. So I'm going to take about 5 to 6 minutes to do that, just for the folks that haven't had a chance to meet or be introduced to me. My career spans about 20 plus years, of that 14 years in the city of Oakland, providing services to our diverse citizens with complex challenges and also a wealth of opportunities similar to here in Baltimore City. In addition to that experience, I'm a passionate advocate for education in all realms, and to that end, to a little bit about my educational background, I have a doctoral degree in organizational leadership from the School of Education, and a master's degree in business administration from the University of San Francisco, and a bachelor's of science with a concentration in business finance from California State University, Hayward, or East Bay now, they call it. A little bit personal about me. I grew up in one of the most challenging neighborhoods in East Oakland, and know firsthand the importance of being a public servant and providing services to the public and to all sectors of the public. Understand how critical the work we do is for the quality of life for all Baltimore City residents. And I have a unique ability to be able to communicate to anyone, anywhere, anytime. And that skills will be critical for the success of DPW as we integrate our services to everyone here in city and our extended family in the county. My experience includes 3.5 years of finance and administrative manager in the City of Oakland Parks and Rec Division, 2 years as an administrator for the Public Works Department Bureau of Administration, and the City of Oakland Acting Budget Director. So earlier in my career, a very strong finance and human resources background. Those roles I managed the fiscal, budgeting, human resource, IT, safety, training, and all administrative functions you can think within a Public Works Department. I did spend 3 years as an Assistant Public Works Director in the City of Oakland, managing operations to include mowing, tree cutting, trimming, traffic signal striping, street maintenance, potholes, sewer, storm, illegal dumping, and much, much more. Pretty much the operations of the city of Oakland. And then I spent my next 3 years as the public works director for the city of Oakland, managing both the capital program, and that's vertical and horizontal infrastructure and assets, construction management, contract management, again, operations, and the department's administration functions. So I had pretty much a journalist background. I then spent the last year as an assistant city administrator in the city of Oakland, where I oversaw the departments of Parks and Rec, Library, Human Services, Planning and Building, Transportation, Public Works, Workforce Employment Standards, and our O311, which was modeled after the 311 system put here in Baltimore City. My education experience and training has prepared me to be able to jump in and move Baltimore City Public Works Department forward. Coupled with my previous experience, I have spent the last several weeks here getting to know the residents, the issues, and the challenges facing Baltimore City Public Works Department. And I'm confident that my experience in education and training will allow for a smooth transition in leadership. I am invigorated by the opportunities and look forward and ready to continue the critical work of this agency. A little about just a few of the initiatives that I think are related here to Baltimore City that I oversaw are directly led. In Oakland, projects such as I assisted in the implementation of Oakland's Zero Waste Initiative, ensuring estimated diversion rates of 55% in both commercial and multifamily organics in 2020. In coordination with Waste Management, we onboarded a new mixed material processing facility, which is the only one in Northern America, which adds 300 tons a day of diversion in a world-class facility. I initiated a master plan for our urban forests, our sewer and storm infrastructure to better understand and plan for capital needs and best practice surrounding maintenance of these assets to ensure rate stability, which is critical to gaining public trust. I led and met and exceeded all aspects of our consent decree there in the Bay Area, which included a reduction in our I&I inflow infiltration targets and a reduction in our annual SSOs. So we went about 10 years ago from 300 SSOs to 2019, 2020, we concluded the year with, I think, 58 sanitary sewer overflows. So we had a major reduction there. I was instrumental in addressing blight activities in the city of Oakland to include our Oaktown Proud campaign, which brought awareness to illegal dumping, and our Student Ambassador program, which hires high school seniors to advocate with their peer groups concerning the impacts of litter and illegal dumping in our environment. I was also instrumental in creating our environmental enforcement officers, which also, along with our proactive and reactive illegal dumping crews, provided improved cleaning for the city. I was a city lead for our Reimagining Permitting Initiative, which creates a one-stop shop for how we did permitting throughout the city of Oakland, as well as the lead for our Reimagining Public Safety. So I was doing a lot of work on our public safety standpoint with our Oakland Police Department in my role as Assistant City Administrator. So I have a breadth of knowledge, both in public works, but also in looking at general municipal programs. The Public Works Department provides services that affect the daily lives of our residents, and I believe in consistently improving the delivery and restoration of these services and evaluating performance from our customer satisfaction standpoint. And so in order to do that, there's 4 pillars that I'll be focusing on here in Public Works that will guide the work forward. And the first one is communication and customer service, with the goal of providing both streamlined communication to our public on how we deliver service, when we deliver service, and when there will be interruptions in that delivery of services. But also excellent customer service when you pick up the phone and want to have answers, that someone is picking it up and they provide you a professional response. And that is critical for how we do our work, but also in gaining the trust of our public. The second pillar is technology and data. As we move into the 21st century, being able to use technology to push the work and monitor the work is critical. But it's not just the technology that we implement, it's the data that comes from that technology that will be critical in us making really core critical decisions going forward, whether that's our AVL system that we're implementing, whether that's us upgrading how we're analyzing our capital program, or us implementing robust asset management metrics to look at what we're doing, how we're doing, so that we can make better decisions. And so that's one of the second pillars. The third one, transparency and improving processes. Processes is really, really critical. And I talked to that at our budget hearing. But as we hone in on those processes, that we adhere to those processes, and that we are transparent with the public with those processes, we begin to understand and make clear not only our processes, but also expectations of how we deliver our services, what our public can expect from us, and what we can expect from our public. The last one is just investing in staff, right? We must train staff, promote staff, give them tools to do their jobs, so that we can improve the morale here at DPW. I believe that a happy employee is a more productive and engaged employee. We need to stabilize our organization, bring that stability and guidance through providing thoughtful, strategic, clear, stable leadership as we move this agency forward. And so it will take time. It will take some patience. It will take a lot of communication. It would take a team that includes the public, many of our policymakers, our staff working together to solve the many challenges and opportunities that face the Department of Public Works. And with that, I look forward to leading and moving the Department of Public Works forward with the help of our excellent team here in DPW, but also all of our critical stakeholders, and providing excellent service to the Baltimore City. And with that, I yield my time, and thank you for Mr. Chair for the opportunity to provide an update on my resume and my credentials.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mitchell. Did you have anybody specific that you wanted to speak on your behalf, or should we just get into the committee?
I think we should just get into the committee if possible.
Okay. All right, very good. All right, don't see, hold on one second. Okay. We'll start with questions from members of the committee. I will start with Council Vice President Middleton. Do you have any questions?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I apologize. I'm having some technical difficulties, and apologize for Mr. Mitchell for not being visual. But I don't have any questions, but I just want to say, I did have a one-on-one, very productive dialogue with Mr. Mitchell, and I look forward to continually working with you. From our meeting, I really felt that you have some good ideas and partnerships that can help this very difficult job that you have. And we are here to work with you and support you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next up on my screen here is Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Acting Director Mitchell, great to see you today. Thank you for being here. Can you assure me that when I call at 2 in the morning and have a water main break, you're going to take my call and send a crew out?
Yes, I'll be there. Pick up the phone.
That's all I needed to hear, Mr. Chair. I'm good.
Why you got to wake him up at 2 a.m.?
Hey, water main breaks don't sleep, Mr. Chairman.
That's all right. All right, next up, Councilman Torrance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, fellow council members. I call you Dr. Mitchell because you're in it. I have no questions for you, and I will say that I enjoyed our conversation from your organizational mindset, but I do enjoy the directness and honesty, not the over promising and under expectation conversations we had, because you became very clear about where your knowledge is, where we are, where we can go, and I'm looking forward to partnering with you.
Likewise, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up, Councilman Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and colleagues. Sorry, I did have my questions jotted down. Good to see you again, Acting Director Mitchell. Have great taste in neighborhood selection, so looking forward to seeing you around in the community. The first question I had, and I think it's pretty timely because there was a article in the Baltimore Sun today about emissions from Maryland landfills, and they're being 4 times higher than initially, I guess, projected to be. Can you speak about or what your thoughts are on zero waste to landfill plants and sort of moving away from landfilling and incineration as climate change becomes more of a reality for all of us, not only in Baltimore, but across the globe?
No, thank you. Thank you for that. I did see some clips of the article and understood. I think that some of the methane CO2 that's releasing from the landfill, is higher than anticipated. I think is a timely discussion that we're having here in Baltimore City. We're looking at diversion rates, and we're looking at putting less waste in our landfills, which will actually reduce that. And so, as we begin to look at zero waste and how we want to do it, as we roll out our recycling can, we start looking at our green waste and how we process it. I think that's going to be number one, critical to putting less into our landfill, but also extending a useful life and making a lot of environmental positive impacts. And 2, how we utilize those gas and recycle them when we're doing some of that now in DPW, and how we can create more robust programs whereby how we're taking those gases and reusing those things for some of the positive things. And so I think we have a lot of opportunities here, right? And so I'm looking forward to the challenges in working with the key stakeholders to figure out how we do that and how fast we can do that so we can be good stewards.
Well, thank you. I think that's definitely looking forward to continuing that that conversation moving forward. The other question that I had for you was just broadly speaking, the issue of wastewater backups and sewage infrastructure is something that I navigate a lot with constituents throughout my district. Can you speak to your perspectives on how the agency can be a little bit more proactive on some of the systemic issues around that? And obviously it loops into your experience in navigating the consent decree, which is directly correlated to this issue itself, is, the issue of wastewater in our streams, our basements, continues to impact citizens more. Can you speak to how you plan to assess the situation and address it for citizens and for our environment?
No, that's an excellent question, and I think the concern that I've heard, and I do want to acknowledge the great work that you all have done in this, right? Baltimore City Public Works Department, the public investment in the policymakers for supporting the Headworks project. So I was just there again there yesterday, looking at our facilities and looking at that project. That project will leave a lot of pressure on our interceptors, which will alleviate overflows. And so there was a huge investment to do that. And we're going to be looking at those systems and looking for that have a very significant impact on SSOs. And I also think, as we go forward, not just a consent decree, but really looking at our preventative maintenance models here in the city, making sure that we're doing the right roof foaming to make sure that that green space doesn't interrupt our systems. In the downtown area corridor, looking at grease in our main lines and figuring out how we deal with those challenges so that we can reduce the impact of those overflows. So it's not just the headworks process. It's looking at some of our maintenance and preventive maintenance program and our capital program as we replace. One of the great things is Baltimore is an old city, but one of the challenges is that some of the infrastructure is old. So really having a good plan for looking at that data and making critical decisions. We have limited resources, so when we spend it, we have to do it the right way. And that's what we'll be looking forward to do.
Thank you. Those are my two questions, Mr. Chair. I did have one more, but I'll hold off.
If you got one more, just go ahead.
So the last question I had was just generally how we can improve, and this is not to point fingers at DPW or the community staff or anything like that, but just broadly speaking, there's been a lot of concerns about communication from city agencies broadly. Right before I jumped on this call, I was in an email exchange with a resident that was, upset about grass cutting of a city property and sort of this closeout of the complaint, which is through on not your problem. But either way, there was just an overall frustration with not knowing when resolution would come. And not just to tie it to just issues with like mowing, but just broadly speaking, how do we, what are some of the things that you did in Oakland that you think you can bring here to improve the lines of communication? And so obviously we can manage expectations that people may have, if we're saying a lot's going to be done this day or crew's going to deal with the water main break at this time, that we're making sure that we are getting the word out to people adequately.
No, I think there's two pieces. How we look at our website, how we engage in 3-1, how our public engage with the city. We have to make sure that's clear, right? Whether you go to my website in DPW or anywhere else, how you contact us is clear. And two, how we communicate back out is clear as well. And we have to leverage all those tools, whether that's a city website, right? If we're having some issues with outages or routes, how we post that in a consistent place, consistently put that out there so folks can get stable information and know that if something goes on, this is the space for getting that information. Continue to be out in the community and gathering information so that folks know how to contact and we know how to contact folks in order to be able to connect. In Oakland, we increased in the Department of Public Works our engagement, internal mailing list, text list by about 25,000 residents in 2 years. And how we did, we went out into the fairs and farmers market. Folks spent the wheel, they got a tchotchke and they filled out a form and they were able to connect. We were able to have that positive interaction, but the interactions thereafter was critical. When it was a message that we need to push, we had that kind of engagement with our public. So continue to utilize its tools. And our staff is working very hard, and Yolanda and our team is working very hard to improve that. We're coming with a comprehensive plan for communications so that we can improve. And then it's dialogues that we're having, Councilmember Burnett, around how we continue to improve. We'll get somewhere, but we still got to have the discussion so we can continue to tweak it and get it better and better and better. So I look forward to that. You as my neighbor, and I'm having those conversations so that we continue to improve. It's not just doing it once, it's that in continuous process to improve so we can get better and better.
Got it. Thank you. Looking forward to that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next up on my screen, Councilman Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you guys hear me? Great. Acting Director Mitchell, really good to have worked with you in the past couple of weeks. You Really appreciate you coming out to my community literally the day after you and I met virtually. It shows a level of dedication that and attention that you don't often get from directors. And so I appreciated that. I appreciated you jumping right on it and getting out there and getting your hands dirty with me on day two. So really looking forward to working with you. I have one question, and I guess it's multifaceted, but it's all along the same line. You're coming with a ton of experience out of Oakland, and Baltimore's a little bit different. I'm really curious what you think is your greatest opportunity for growth in this position, and how you intend to account for that once you take on this role.
I mean, for me, I'm coming. Thank you for that question. I'm coming from a new environment, an environment that has many unique challenges, right? The weather is a different challenge that I'm coming into, right? Where we're at as a department from a technology standpoint, and what places that we can grow is going to, be a unique challenge, but an opportunity. And so I think from my standpoint, one of the great opportunities I have the experience that I have in Oakland, which is unique to Oakland, right? I will come here and learn a new neighborhoods, new people, new challenges, but also be able to bring that, listen to our team, listen to our policymakers, and be able to push forward not an agenda, but the right path forward for Baltimore City, right? And doing it with excellent staff, right? I got a chance to meet a ton of folks in public works, right? And as I come in, they're ready to roll their sleeves up, they're ready to work hard, and they're ready for the challenge. So my challenge is to make sure I continue to motivate the team, give strategic and stable leadership, and so that we can do better for the citizens of Baltimore. And so it's a great opportunity to be able to do it for a community such as Baltimore City. You all are unique and great in all different ways. And for me to be able to do that for this community, I'm excited, and it's something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I asked that question primarily for one reason. I want to make sure that we as council members can always think about how we can be helpful. We're all in this together, and we get these complaints too. So we want to make sure that you're successful as well. So as you think about ways that you can grow the department, improve the department, please look at us as partners in that endeavor as well. So looking forward to working with you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Mitchell, it's great to have you in Baltimore. Welcome. And I've enjoyed our conversations as well. My question is regarding something that we saw in the paper recently, and it's been coming up recurring. There was an OIG report about it as well, that we have these smart meters that apparently aren't very smart and continue to be a problem in terms of water billing and getting the right thing in place. Water billing, period, has been a nightmare for our residents, period. So then the smart meters come, not so smart. There's still some things that are not working. And by the way, we still have the same contractor who messed this up is going to help us, which doesn't make sense to me. So I'm wondering if you can comment a little bit about this and what your plans are moving forward.
Thank you for that question. I know when I come into this role and looking at our UMAC system, and I'm looking at our smart meters, and even looking at some of the data that's coming to me, much of the meters in some of the reports that I'm getting are that they're performing well, and in some areas that they're not. And so where I come from, and on the West Coast, there's always unique challenges to water, and whether you have main breaks, whether you had someone that disconnect a meter, or someone hits it, or what have you, there's always those challenges with infrastructure. I think for us, is continue to develop process, right? So that we can identify the true source of what the concerns are here in Baltimore. I think much of it is education. Much of it is just responding. I've had contacts with at least 3 or 4 customers around billing. In many of the cases, it wasn't the billing that was an issue. It was the response and it was how we communicated the challenges that was on the bill. And so it wasn't on the surface, it may have looked like the bill itself, but it was more how we communicate those challenges. So my goal is to put process in place, right? So that we can understand and identify those challenges and so that we can identify the exact challenge so we can provide proper prescription to solve it. So that's what I'm looking forward to do. I don't always want to go to the system and the meter because I found out that sometimes that's the go-to. I think the go-to is the process, the procedures, and I really identifying, what those concerns are.
Can I follow up on that, Mr. Chair? I think actually that the escalation unit has been phenomenal. They have worked out every problem that I have been able to get to them. They are amazing under Ms. Curtis, under Ms. Taylor. They have been awesome. So I think that working through all of those has been great. We want to make sure on the front end that this doesn't happen. And
Right.
so I am concerned, and maybe you need to do a little bit more digging. You just got here, I understand, about this issue of this contractor that is supposed to give us the smart meters. They're not working, and he's fixing them now. So we can follow up on that as well. But I just want to shout out that the escalation team has been very good in our district, but the key is that we don't always want to get to that place. And so that's what it sounds like you're trying to get to. My second question is about, I have a lot of questions, so I'm just trying to figure out which one for my second round. You've heard from all of us, I'm sure, and this is a solid waste question, about the illegal dumping issues that we have in our city. And they're caused by a few things, one of which is the very long wait times at our transfer stations and at the landfill, where it's much easier to just toss it all in an alley than it is to wait. And this is also true for our workers who spend long hours, picking up the trash and then having to wait hours to be able to put it somewhere. So what is your plan moving forward? And I'm not a big fan of adding more landfills. I don't really want to do that, although we do need an east side transfer station, by the way. And I know eventually we'll be working together on zero waste because that's a clear thing that all the council members want to work on. But what is this? How are we going to address this issue in the short term?
So that's an excellent question. And I think that's some of the questions I'm still trying to evaluate. I did a full assessment of many of our facilities already in my 4 weeks that I've been here. I can tell you from where I'm coming to where I'm at that there needs to be a significant investment, right? Whether that's a small haulers program going there, whether that's where our sweepers, whether that's where our packer trucks are going, they're going to that small space to unload. And as you can imagine, the space is not adequate. And so as we provide these programs, on the front end, we have to start, and if we haven't already, we continue to look at those processes, but also the impacts to our infrastructure. And without the investment or the build out of that infrastructure to support those operations, then we can see long lines like we're seeing now. The goal for me right now is to figure out then how do I alleviate it so that number one, we can deal with the current, but then what is the plan for the long term so that our residents and that our key stakeholders can have better experiences. And that's the work that we're doing right now as we try to stabilize these programs.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Ramos, if you have other questions, you can keep going.
Oh, okay, sure. I was also wondering about, given our significant rain today, we do have a stormwater management issue. I have a big one in my district that I've shown you, and I'm very happy that my chairwoman, Maggie McIntosh, was able to get us our significant money to address my issue, which is significant. But we have stormwater challenges across the city. And I think the DPW team, Kim Grove, and everybody is working towards getting some of this done. But what are some other things that you've experienced in other places that could possibly work here? I mean, we've got to deal with runoff. We have to deal with cleaning up our storm drains. Like, what else can we do around the storm water issue?
I mean, I think we have to look at it and truly what we did in Oakland, we did a master plan on our system. And so that we didn't guess on how we deal with storm drain, we did a complete master plan so we can understand, number one, how do we maintain the current system? Where are the issues, the flood zones and the issues within our current system? What are the capital needs to do that? And then how do we then apply the resources to making those happen, right? Stormwater traditionally in many cities are one of the areas that's underfunded, right? And there's limited funding in that area. And so what we've done is really looked at a master plan, right? And not just look at one off on this street or one off in this district. Collectively as a city, how is that infrastructure communicating? How is it working? And then how do we address it? And how do we get the best bang? We won't be able to do it all at once, right? Wish we could, but we won't. And so then where would that investment goes? And that's why those master plans are very critical to success, but also the focus of an organization. So when I receive resources, and I know you receive resources for, some of the things that are happening in your district that we saw there. But when we receive those resources, where is the best place to apply those? And what is the city was going to focus on? And so that planning is very critical. And I think that's what I'll be bringing to the table and some of that experience on how we develop those plans with Yosef, with Kim Grove, so that we can do this right.
Thank you. And my last question, Mr. Chair, is Director Mitchell, you talked a lot about education and communications. A lot of us are very interested in a campaign around making sure people aren't tossing trash out the window. I think that's one of the things that gets all of us. If I see another bottle on my median, I think I'm going to scream. So, tell us, are we going to be doing that? Are we going to be working together can we work together on a major campaign and also with the school systems as well to try to deal with the littering issue?
No, that's a great question. And I think you saw in the presentation as I started out, the Oaktown Proud campaign. And I want to say the PROUD stands for Prevent, Report, or Unlawful Dumping. And so that's where you get the letters PROUD for. And it was a campaign specifically for what you do. And it was a long-term investment. So, a 10-year strategic plan on how we engage, right? Where we engage and who engages, because we knew some of this was systemic, right? It's been happening for generations. It's been happening for decades. And so in order to change those behaviors, we knew we had to put a long-term campaign into changing, just human behavior, where folks don't understand it's not okay to put garbage out, throw something out the window of your car. And so we did that. And that's what we'll be looking to do here and figuring out how we do that here. We also had our student ambassador program that we talked about, where we took our seniors and we used them to talk with their peer groups, but we also leveraged them to apply peer pressure to people like us, right? Our generation above them, right, that are doing wrong. And now I have my child saying this is the right way to do it. So education is critical. Baltimore has done some great things that we didn't do on the West Coast. You have a great Boki program. You have 5 convenience centers where you can drop off your household goods. You have a haulers program, right? So you have some great things. How do we improve? Well, we have to let people know they exist, and we got to continue to educate folks on how to deal with the waste stream before it gets out. And those are, I think, and in Oakland, we call it our triple E approach, right? Eradication, picking it up, enforcement, which we have here, but the education was one of the biggest E's.
Thank you. I look forward to working with you on that. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
No problem. And let me just see if I missed any of members of the council before I ask my questions. Do not see anybody. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so my main question, Mr. Mitchell, and you and I had a long meeting, and we've met each other multiple times after that. So we've gotten to know each other a little bit, and you answered a lot of my questions when we had met. One question that I've been hearing a little bit more about, and I'd kind of just like a direct answer if you have one today for us. So right now, one of there's critical city functions, right? I think we all agree that trash collection is one of the most basic critical functions that the government has to provide for the residents of the city. Without trash collection working, I mean, there's a lot that can go wrong. There's a lot of other issues that happen if trash doesn't get picked up. And so I believe that the general fund, which currently funds that, people pay taxes, and one of the key services they get more often than any other service, I think, in the entire city, is their trash collected. Do you believe, or do you have any feeling towards whether or not people should have to pay separately towards that, like they pay a water bill for water? Do you have any plans, or have you considered charging folks over and above their property taxes for that service?
I haven't considered that. I think the challenges that we currently have regarding trash collection, if you will, is ensuring that we have enough drivers on our trucks to be able to meet the route demand, right? And so our team is really working very diligently to get drivers. We're a shortage on CDL drivers. One of the things that we had in Oakland was a CDL training program in-house, right? So we didn't have the driver shortages that we're seeing here. Once we get drivers on the truck, then what we'll have is we'll be able to provide, more robust services, making sure that we're not missing routes, making sure that we can put folks back in our sweepers, making sure that we can get our bulky programs back on. And so it's not so much about funding, it's as much as ensuring that we have the human resources to be able to make sure that those programs are happening in a more streamlined fashion.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that's a great opportunity for a program. I fully support. If you were to implement a program like that to create in-house, CDL programs, so that we do have that constant stream of new drivers coming in, so that we don't run into this problem in the future. So just to be abundantly clear, so you don't support, like, if you need additional resources for that. Do you agree that those resources should come from our regular city budget, from general fund revenues?
I agree that we have to have that conversation, right? And so I'm here for weeks. I'm still trying to figure out all the funding streams and how it all works. But I definitely agree that if there's additional resources needed to get us where we have to have that conversation. It's a conversation in order to get us to where we want. If additional resources are needed, then without a conversation, we don't get there. So I definitely believe that we have to have the conversation. What that conversation consists of, I don't know. But I'm certain as I get to sit in this seat longer and really understand the finances of our Solid Waste Bureau, then I begin to find out what some solutions. I can tell you some of the things that we've done in Oakland and how we did it there. But again, that prescription is prescribed for the city of Oakland. What we have to find out is what's the best prescription for the city of Baltimore City. And that will take time for me, not only to understand the operations in the house, but continue to have conversation with the public, continue to have conversation with the policymakers, so that as we come up with proposals, we get it right.
So, and I'm not familiar about whether or not Oakland does it. Does Oakland have a separate fund for, like, an enterprise fund for trash collection?
We contracted out with Waste Management.
No, I mean the revenue. Like, do the taxpayers there pay separately for their taxes? Is it a separate bill, or is it like water is? You receive a monthly water bill. Do residents in Oakland receive a monthly or quarterly or annual charge for trash collection?
Yes, I think it's bi-monthly in Oakland for trash collection, or quarterly. Yeah.
So they do have a separate fund for that.
In Oakland, yeah. So in Oakland, it's done that way for Baltimore City, that may not be the right prescription. And again, that's where we have to have the conversations.
Gotcha. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? Show of hands if you do. If not, we will move to a vote. Mr. Mitchell, do you have any closing remarks or anything?
No, I just want to say to this body and all the policymakers, thank you all. Been in many of the districts so far. I got to meet many of you, some in person, some virtually. I just want to thank you for all the work you've done. I want to thank my DPW team. A lot of them are in charge of TV. Get a shout out to the workers. As you know, they worked tirelessly throughout the pandemic. They were on the front lines. I want to say I appreciate you all. I'm thankful for the work that you've done. I know we still have a ways to go, but we're willing to roll our sleeves up and get it done. And then to the public, know that I care about, providing excellent service. And I'm gonna to Council Member Costella's point, I'm gonna pick up that phone. We're gonna do what it takes to provide the service that you need, and be the department that you know we can be. And thank you all for this opportunity to showcase my skill sets.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mitchell. And any way that myself or my colleagues can partner with you in DPW to help improve services, we certainly are open and willing to do whatever it takes. We all share the same common goal. So thank you very much. Richard, if we can entertain a motion and then do a roll call vote. So do I have a motion to confirm Mr. Jason Mitchell as Director of Department of Public Works?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Chair, I had an additional
Second.
question, but I was trying to raise my hand.
Oh, okay. I just saw your screen pop up. All right, Councilman, I guess we can have discussion on this vote if you have something you'd like to add.
The question I have is more so related to staff relations in terms of issues in backwater and others. I just want to make sure that we have a commitment from you to address those concerns from many of the constituents who I have as DPW employees about issues in terms of race relations as well as sexism and other things at that facility. I just want to just to make sure we get it on the record that we have a commitment from you for that and how you're going to address. Thank you so much.
Are you good, Councilman?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion by
Costello.
seconded by. Do we have a second?
Second, Middleton.
Okay, seconded by Middleton. Richard, if you can go ahead through the roll.
So roll call. Chair Schleifer.
Yes.
Chair Schleifer votes aye. Mr. Burnett.
Yes.
Mr. Burnett votes aye. Mr. Conway.
Aye.
Mr. Conway votes aye. Mr. Costello.
Aye.
Mr. Costello votes aye. Vice President Middleton.
Aye.
Vice President Middleton votes aye. Member Ramos.
Aye.
Member Ramos votes aye. Mr. Torrance.
Aye.
Mr. Torrance votes aye. Mr. Chair, there's 7 votes in the affirmative, no negatives. We can go to second read at Monday's meeting if that's the desire of the chair and the committee.
Thank you very much, Richard. And I'll be the first to congratulate you, Director Mitchell. I look forward to working with you for many years to come.
Thank you.
And so you and your team, we have another hearing that we're about to move on to. So you and your team are welcome to log off. Or you can stick around, it's up to you guys.